Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story time that is close to my heart and is a major part of my life. In 2013, in December, my mum fell in a coma on Christmas Eve, and it was probably the worst days of our life. The 2 weeks after it was equivalent to hell for us. So on December 24th, my mum had a infection. She had an operation to remove her baby bag, and so she had a infection while she was being transferred from two hospitals, from one hospital to another hospital, and she got an infection. And I remember going with my brother to hospital. It was hard for me to know. I wouldn't know what's wrong with her because I was finding it funny because at this point I was around, how old was I? 8 years ago I was 15. So I was 15, and I remember going to mum that day because my dad would visit my mum every day and he'd do so much throughout the whole day and he'd be so tired. I was like to my dad, why don't you stay home tonight and me and my brother would visit, because my dad would visit my mum twice a day, and in the daytime I would go, and then in the evening when my brother would go, or I would go again. But I was like to my dad, you need to rest, you need some rest, so why don't you stay home with my other brother and I will go with my other brother to a hospital to visit mum. And I remember my mum's tongue was so purple and she was proper stuttering and she couldn't speak at all. I shouldn't mimic, but she was proper she just couldn't lift her tongue. I remember my brother saying, you need to go tell the nurse to come and check her because there's something wrong with her. And I remember thinking, nothing is wrong, it's probably just just something. And so I remember going to the nurse, and because nurses would be busy at night time, so they wouldn't be able to pay attention, so they said we'll come in a few minutes. I remember my brother saying to me when I went back into the room, he's like, we're not going to leave until mum gets attended because this could be something so serious. And I remember going again to the nurses and saying you need to check before we leave, and they're like, don't worry, leave and then we'll come anyway to check. And I went to my brother and my brother was like, no, tell them that we won't leave until they come. So I went back again and I said, we won't leave until you guys come. So they were like, okay, let's just, we'll come in 5 minutes because we're gonna attend all these patients. We'll have the main nurse come check her that's attending my mum. And we were like, okay, cool. And then so I went back into the room, we were waiting, and then nurse comes, she checks my mum, and she literally rushes out, and then she brings a lot of nurses with her into the room. She calls the doctors, and within literally 5 minutes, they tell us to go home and that they will call us. And I remember thinking it couldn't be that serious, maybe it's just something, And then I remember going home and I couldn't sleep, so I would be awake all night. I was literally downstairs until 4 a.m. Usually I wouldn't be awake until that time. I'm downstairs and be in my room. I remember sitting downstairs watching TV and my dad's phone rings around like, I think it was like 2 a.m. and they say like, oh, we're gonna have to take so the woman that called said that I need to give my dad the call. I remember like telling her that he's asleep, and she's like, you have to wake him up, this is really important. So I go and wake him up, and I remember like my brother waking up, and like we were all so worried. Like they were like, oh, we need to do, like basically they had to do my mom's operation, so it was an emergency one, and my mom must have signed the papers without even knowing, like she didn't have any sense that she even did that. But she said just go for it, because it's gonna, you know, there is always a risk for a beneficial side of it. And I remember like going to sleep thinking it's going to be okay, because I was like 15, I didn't really think much of it at the time. And then in the morning when I woke up at like 8 a.m. in the morning, I remember my dad running out the house at 8, and the doctor said, so the doctor called at like, well, my dad kept calling the doctors in the morning around 8, and the doctor was basically like, you don't need to come in right now because she's still on like an operation, the operation theatre, and she's probably gonna wake up, well, she's not gonna wake up, like she's gonna be out by like around 12 p.m. So I remember like my dad like was running to go to the hospital, and I remember my uncle was living with us at the time because, you know, just emotional support in that, and he literally stopped my dad from running up the house. And then my dad called my grandpa, and then my grandpa's sister came as well, and they went to the hospital, and I didn't think much of it. I honestly thought my mum would have been awake when she woke up, because obviously it's an operation, you're gonna wake up at the end of the operation. And I remember like saying to my dad, like, what should I cook for mum to eat when she wakes up from her operations? I made like khichdi dal and like saag and stuff like that for her, and I packed a tiffin container of like food basically. And then I remember like saying what clothes does she want to wear, and then my dad was like, obviously the good thing was that he did tell us what was happening, like, so we were updated with everything. At that point when he said that she's still asleep at like, I think home around 3 p.m. that day, and I remember him saying like, you know, that she's not awake, she's still sleeping, and they're gonna keep her like that. And I was like, why are they gonna keep her like that? And then I remember like I heard him like tell my brother that she's in a coma, and then I heard, and he was like, yeah, she's in a coma, but you don't need to worry about it because she'll be awake soon. I was like, what do you mean she's gonna be awake soon? Like, how do you know this? And he's like, because I believe that God will, you know, help her survive and recover. And it was just so emotional, but like, yeah. Yeah, I don't really tend to think about this much, but I thought just so then, because those 2 weeks was so hard, like knowing that she might not make it, but I kept believing that she will make it and nothing will happen to her because God is with us and God will do good for her and for us because we need her. I remember like I would wake up early, I'd go sleep so late because I couldn't sleep, and I would be so emotionally drained. And then the thing is, yeah, during that time, because I had GCSEs, I remember my auntie saying, you should focus on school as well. And I was like, I can't focus on school because this is my priority right now. I just can't focus. Like, I know that I had to do my prayers and all that I could to contribute to just trying to be, I don't know, spiritually there, you know, be praying for her soul. And I remember we used to pray the whole day. Like, when we wake up, the bhajans would be on, and after I cook and all of that, I would literally start like doing like the holy beads and like just sit there under God and just pray. And I remember like even Hayden used to pray, and yeah, like we all used to pray like the whole day. Literally we'd be sitting there for hours and hours just praying and non-stop. It was just, yeah, it was crazy. But there were like a couple of people that were so supportive emotionally, and I will forever be grateful for them. Like, they were there by our side no matter what, and that's what's also given us hope at that time, you know. So there was this woman in the ICU waiting room where her husband was also in the opposite bed of my mum, and I remember she would be crying and just praying, like having prayer songs and that. And she said to me, this felt like a blessing, because her husband had water filled up in his heart, and I remember she saying to me he won't make it, and I remember telling her he would make it, like there could be a miracle happen, and she said he won't because the doctor has given this time. And he was only 50, which is so young, and she said he's lived his life because he's seen his grandchildren and all of that, and that is still young. But he passed away, and I remember going into the hospital to see my mum, and she was there waiting for me, like she was crying, and her family was there, and I remember like hugging her, because that did scare me. I was like, what if I'm just saying my mom's gonna make it, or what if she's not? What if she's gonna pass away like just like this uncle did? And yeah, that shook me. But then I was like, if I'm gonna break down, of course my brothers and my dad would break down along with me. So I tried to stay strong. I tried to be the mother and the sister and the daughter in the house, and I tried to be supportive emotionally at the time. I remember like it was so heartbreaking. Like, that was one of the most important person in my life, my mother. And the strong belief that I had that nothing's gonna happen to my mum was because it was because my mum's sister, when she passed away, a day before, she said to my mum, I don't have any worries for you anymore with your health conditions, because I know you will make it, you will survive, as long as you have your kids with you. And well, she specifically said my brother Hitten, but obviously I count myself in. But I believed that because she said that, she's going to bless it upon her, and that my mom will survive for her brother and for us, because without her I don't think we'd be stable at all. We'd never. And I remember going temple and crying my eyes out in front of God, like asking, why does this happen to us? Like, why aren't other people that are bad suffering, and why are the good people that have not done anything bad to anyone suffering when they don't deserve it? I remember when we had to go in to say our final goodbye, I was not scared, and just because I had that faith, like nothing is gonna happen, God is with us and God will protect her no matter what. And thing is, okay, so my mum's kidney, her liver failed and her heart was failing, and the doctor said, you need to call your close family members. It was so strict that only close family members will be allowed only, and we didn't have a choice. And I remember going there, and I wasn't stressed at all. I wasn't worried. I knew that there was going to be a miracle, and I knew something was going to happen that will bring my mum back to life. She'll be perfectly fine again. I remember saying that you guys are worrying too much. Nothing's going to happen. She's gonna wake up, watch. And everyone was crying. Like, my uncle ran out the whole room, the whole ward, crying. My cousin cried, like ran and cried away. Like, I was like, why is everyone crying like this? Like, even my brother ran out the room and he was crying his head off. And I remember telling him that I'm here for you. And I remember like this uncle that was crying was like, oh, you're a mum now. Like, you know, trying to brighten up the mood at the time, like saying you're, you know. And I was thinking in my head, like, I told my brother, like, you don't need to cry, nothing is going to happen to her, she's going to make it, trust me on this. Because seeing everyone cry just broke my heart, because I had this gut feeling she'll make it. And then the next day, around like 3 a.m, we got a call, and we were literally waiting for this, like, because I don't know how to feel it. And I remember like that same night, like my dad, never seen my dad cry this much. I saw him cry, and it was so heartbreaking, like the worst time. And I wish no one has to go through that. It's actually so horrible, and I'm actually so grateful that what happened next I will tell you. But I'm so grateful, obviously, that God has given my mum the opportunity to live, and I hope that she has so many more years. So the doctor called around 3 a.m, and they were basically, the woman that called at first when my mum went into operation is the one that called, and she was like, this is a miracle that she survived. She woke up, her kidney, her liver started working 100%, her heart started working 100%, and she was perfectly fine. There was no fault in her, like no damage done. And I told my dad, I was like, look, I told you guys nothing was going to happen, because I had that faith and I had that strong gut feeling that, you know what, God's going to do it. God is going to do something. And when this happened, I was like, miracles do happen. God is always there with you. It's all a test, and it's the way you process things. If you have firm faith and say, no, God will always do what's right for me, God will support me, God will do it, He will do it, you know. It's the faith of belief. Do you believe in God enough? Or do you have faith in the universe? Do you believe everything will be alright, you know? And I remember like that was like so blessed. And obviously when I saw my mom, I was just like, it's such a blessing to have her. And obviously it's emotional whenever I go to that hospital, and if I'm passing that ICU part, I feel such a hole in my heart. Like, I'm not even kidding. I had to walk past it twice on different occasions. I felt like I had a heart, like something go through my heart. Like it felt like my heart had a hole inside, like something missing, and it burnt. Like it was so weird. Like I had that. It was because I felt like, because looking at that place just brought me back to that time, and it was the worst feeling. So passing that place is just the worst thing, and I just, no one can imagine how much the people that have actually lost their family members in that place, how they feel. So it's really important for us to appreciate our parents, especially our mom, our dads, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, ourselves. Everybody around us is so precious. You don't know what's gonna happen to anybody anytime. It's just so emotional, and I hope no one has to go through anything. Honestly, it's just heartbreaking, and it stays with you for life. But with this experience, I've learned to become mature at a young age, and I've learned to deal with situations, with hard situations, especially life and death with like my mum. And I've learned that life also depends on faith. If you believe firmly in God, He will protect you. And I know it's easy to say, but I also believe that the doctors are our God for saving her life. They were the main part of it. But then also they did give up when she was in the last day. They did say that, you know, you have to say goodbye, and they did give up. And that was what you call a miracle, when everything starts working again, the kidney, the liver, the heart, and that is a miracle. So yeah, also just remember to remember God in your happiness, not only when you're sad, because everyone will remember God in their sadness. Everyone tends to forget God when they're happy.